Hi, I'm Greg Thomas, and welcome to In Good Company, where we discuss the most important issues facing your business with some of the smartest minds in the business. Shoppers today have higher expectations than ever before. They're used to the ease of one-click checkout. They want to buy online and pick up in the store. Two-day shipping is commonplace. And if these expectations aren't met, you know they're going to shop somewhere else. So what should retailers be doing to meet the increasingly high expectations of shoppers? Joining me today to discuss this is Mark Schmeling, National Sector Leader and Industry Advisor for Consumer and Retail at KPMG. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on In Good Company. Okay. So why don't we just start a little bit with your background? How did you come to be a retail advisor?
Well, I've been working with consumer retail companies all my career, probably for the last 25 years, everything from back office transformation to performance improvement. I've been fortunate to work with some of the greatest retailers and consumer products companies in the world, and I now lead our consumer retail practice for our U.S. firm.
So let's dive into it then. So retail is rapidly evolving, especially around brick and mortar plus online.
Absolutely, it's clearly changed. Today we've got a lot more millennial and Gen Z shoppers, right? And when they shop, a lot of them are just, they're not even going into retail stores. They're buying everything on their mobile. But when they do go into the store, they're looking at, product reviews. They're looking at recommendations. They're looking at specifications. And that's the way people are shopping. It's truly a multi-channel shopping experience, right? If you're a mom, you're buying online and picking up at the store or having it delivered, it's all around convenience. So it's all around convenience, it's around speed, and it's all around information. And I think especially the younger shoppers, they seem to be doing so much more in terms of product research and what are the benefits going to be for me. So it's a very different experience than maybe when I grew up.
We hear a lot in retail about omni-channel and the importance of delivering that kind of experience. And, it's a necessity at this point. Right. Consumers expect it, but employees are a big part of this as well. So how do retailers ensure that consistent omni-channel experience and making sure their employees are equipped and trained to deliver it?
Yeah, when I think about omni-channel and experience of consumers, like I said, I think about you buy in store, you buy online, you buy on your mobile handheld, but also across those customer journey points. And I think it's absolutely critical for retailers to get that experience consistent.
And it's interesting, right? If we were having this conversation, pick your number of years ago, all those things wouldn't necessarily come up in a conversation about retail or lots of other industries as well.
And the organizations, the retailers that don't get it and that can't achieve that promise to their consumers, they're not going to be able to retain those consumers. And in today's fast-moving social media world, one blip along that continuum, that customer journey, can really cause brand issues for those companies.
Yeah, and I think we've all had those experiences where something just didn't quite go right, and it leaves a bad taste. I'm going to think about not shopping at the same place next time.
And people talk about it.
And people talk about it, absolutely. For those ones, maybe especially who are trying to bring folks into the store, engaging retail experiences, how do folks set themselves apart in experiential retail?
When you think about how e-commerce has really reduced the differentiators around price, around assortment, and things like that, and even convenience, those retailers have to do more in terms of achieving that unique experience. And so you think about, creating, an opportunity for companies to discover. So going to a bookstore to discover something that you didn't really think that you wanted to have, but now you have that. Or a great shopping experience where the store staff can provide real recommendations on how to use the product or how to wear a jacket. Or a big box retailer really providing inspiration for the consumer around what a kitchen might look like or what a bathroom might look like. Those are the types of things that will change a customer's view from transactional loyalty to a deeper level of loyalty that will retain those customers in the long term.
I know for me, my local hardware store, they know the houses in my neighborhood. And when I go in there and I talk to them, they get it, and they point me to the right aisle, and they some of those folks even helped build the houses, a few years back.
That's the different level of knowledge that consumers are looking for, and they're willing in many cases, to pay for that. I think in the future, you're going to see more use of technology and virtual reality, augmented reality to take a look at what your living room is going to look like with new furniture or new paint colors.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I've played with some of those things where, like,
Yep.
what does this couch look like in my living room? And it really is a pretty great way to get
Absolutely.
a sense of it.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about what some people call deep retail and getting very personalized with individual shoppers. What are the challenges facing retailers as they try to understand more and more what a consumer wants and perhaps even before the consumer knows?
Yeah. I think when I think about deep retailing, I really think about, one, understanding the customer, and then two, creating the right experience for that consumer. And when you think about understanding the customer, a lot of retailers have data points around, purchase, point of sale data, purchase data, browsing history, but they're not really able to attribute that to, purchases in store without a really deep and robust loyalty program. And when you get to the experience from a personalization perspective, if you're in store, if you're a retailer, how do you have better customer profiles that really better understand you and I as customers of one, as well as tailored offerings that you and I would appreciate? And when you're online, how do you drive consistent content, recommendations, and promotions that are meant for me? I think there's nothing more frustrating than where you or I get promotions from a retailer that really don't know me or don't really have anything to do with me. So it's a key point from that deep retail perspective.
Yeah. And there's a lot of sensitivity in that, right?
Yeah.
Not only do I not want those recommendations that clearly aren't meant for me,
Right.
I'm not a 10-year-old boy, those pants aren't going to fit, but also doing it in a way that feels respectful of my privacy and my own kind of preferences.
Absolutely. And that privacy and customer trust is everything in the retail world.
So let's switch a bit to technology. We've touched on it, but how do those cloud platforms empower retailers to make better decisions, to get value out of the data they have, and do this in a world of really thin margins?
From my view, when I look at cloud-based platforms like Workday, like finance or HR, those are core platforms that drive consistency and standardization around process and data. We see that cloud platform, that core layer of HR and finances as the foundational layer. But then when you add on things like AI and advanced data and analytics to really drive better forecasting without bias, improve pricing optimization and margin optimization, and look at promotions in a different way that through machine learning can really drive big value for organizations.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine sorting through and being able to make use of that data without the cloud, because it's coming from so many different endpoints. You have to have the data to be able to use
completely.
it.
Right.
Let's switch into talent, right? Retailers, it's a really competitive space, and there's a lot of turnover, perhaps especially among the frontline workers. So what are retailers doing, and what challenges do they face to build loyalty in their workforce?
I think a couple things. One, especially with millennials and now Gen Z's coming up through the pipe here, they're looking for organizations that have consistent values, that have missions and goals that are consistent with their beliefs. And so I think having those types of understanding of what those millennial employees want is really important, and having that connection to the core values and missions.
Getting that alignment.
Absolutely, that alignment is absolutely critical.
And it has to be real, right?
It has to be real.
It can't just be
Absolutely.
words on a page.
Absolutely. I think compensation does play a role. You can see what's happened with a lot of the retailers where they've increased compensation or changed compensation for the better. That's had a big impact on retention. I also think that having, and we see it in our business, is really having a defined career path and the ability to move within an organization. A lot of the leaders of some of these largest retail organizations started in the front line, in the stores. They understand what customers want. They understand the core of the business, and allowing them to have career paths that kind of wander through the organization and give them new opportunities for growth and frankly, new opportunities for the organization. Those are key aspects.
Have you seen any good examples of retailers trying to really create those learning opportunities to bring folks along in those types of career paths?
Yeah, to me, what I've seen, a couple things. One, strong mentorship from a leadership perspective. I've also seen reverse mentoring as well, which is really interesting, where you give some of the younger employees the opportunity to mentor leaders, and it brings different perspectives and brings different value propositions to both the leaders and those employees that really kind of brings the organization together.
I could see that being really valuable
Absolutely.
in retail. What about back to technology, machine learning, robotics, creating new ways to create retail experiences, or chatbots, or smart stores, smart speakers? What do retailers need to be doing today to maximize those technologies? And what's further out, do you think?
So I think for a lot of organizations, it's tough to jump to AI and some of these advanced digital capabilities without that foundation that we talked about earlier.
You got to walk before you can run.
So I think you've got to have that platform that drives consistency across data, across processes. So I think that is the foundation. But we're seeing a lot of retail and consumer products companies really leverage AI to drive more accurate forecasts, financial forecasts, merchandise planning, to take the bias out of that. So we worked with one company that we took 10 years of historical data, but then augmented with external signals. We increased their forecast accuracy by 430 basis points and reduced the cycle time by almost 40%. When I think about robotics, we already see robotics in the distribution centers, in the warehouses. We're starting to see it much more in the core stores, right? Looking at labels, looking at out of stocks. I think you'll see more and more, especially in stores, beacons and sensors to sense when you and I are coming to the store, and alert clerks to personalized offers that might be relevant for us.
So I'm going to rewind a little bit. So you've touched on data in a number of different ways. And so I want to bring it back to the customer's data. Retailers have and house a massive amount of customer data. What do they need to be thinking about around data privacy and protection so that customers know their data is safe?
Yeah, it's a big issue, and we deal with this every day with our clients. I think the first step they need to do is take inventory of what data they do have, how they're using it, and frankly, how they're governing that. I think that's a great first step. I think a lot of organizations really, across the enterprise don't really understand how much customer, how much supplier data that they do have and how they're even using that. From a privacy perspective, beyond GDPR, we're seeing more and more regulatory, like CCPA in California. We're going to see more of that. So it's going to be incumbent upon retailers to really have plans for how they deal with that. And I think a lot of organizations, I'll say, have cyber fatigue. But I think what we're telling our clients is don't let up, right? Because customer trust is everything. And data privacy is no longer just a regulatory mandate. It's a demand from your customers. So, make sure that you've got the right proactive cyber and security programs in place to protect customer and supplier data, as well as those kind of plan Bs for when it's not a matter of if for a lot of companies, it's when that breach might occur and how you deal with that. But the more they can do to better understand where that data is, how they're using it, and how they're governing that, will place big dividends in terms of proactive, preventive maintenance for some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way you talked about that, because you've been touching on the notion of you have a relationship with a retailer.
Absolutely.
Right? And
right.
I want to trust in this relationship, and if there's a data breach, then that's going to impact trust.
You may not go back there.
Yeah. So what can a retailer do to make sure that they're both covering the bases, but then, as you said, having that plan in place to handle it? So this is fascinating. We could talk about this all day, but let's wrap it up. So if you were talking to a consultant, a tech consultant in the retail space, what would you advise that they do? Top 3 things, say, over the next year.
We do this all the time. We've talked to retailers about this exact topic. I think one I would say is get that foundational base in play, right? Whether it's finance, whether it's HR, that is the core cloud platform that drives consistency, connects the enterprise. It drives consistency in both data and process. Have that in place, because it's very difficult to do some of the other things that we were talking about.
Build the foundation.
Build a foundation. 2 is think about the digital technologies that are going to impact your customers around personalization, and as well as look at tools like AI that can have both impact on your business performance as well as impacting your customers. And I think as well as you need to consider the security and the privacy. Our retailers can't let down. That is going to continue to be a challenge for them, and don't let that go down. And I think lastly, what I would say is, what I tell all my clients is, keep with your technology roadmap, implementing that, but never stop experimenting with new ideas around technology and how it can impact your business and impact your customers.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mark, for being here.
Thank you very much.
We've been talking with Mark Schmeling about retail. I'm Greg Thomas. Thanks for watching another episode of In Good Company.